Hey guys, welcome back to the happiest hour on earth. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you heard our episode last week, you know that we were chatting kind of about the future of Disney parks and movies in general, because we were talking about D23 and all the things to come. But tonight we decided to take things back to chat about some of the extinct Disneyland attractions and rides. A lot of these I never knew about, and we kind of did a little bit of research, have a fun list of all the different lands within the park that have rides that are gone now. And so we just thought we would kind of talk about some of those, talk about what we would love to have experienced and whether or not we think the replacement was a good idea or not. So we're pretty excited to chat about this. So let's go ahead and jump in.
All right, so if you are listeners of us, you know that we usually try to make a Disneyland snack or just Disney snack in general or Disney drink for every single episode. This week was a little crazy. I was working an event over the weekend, so we didn't really have that much time. We're also celebrating our, oh my gosh, by the time the day this episode comes out, it will be our 6-year anniversary, married, but we've been together for
12 years.
12 years. Yeah, I know the math just gets harder.
Starts blurring together.
It does.
Point,
yeah.
But yeah, 6 years married, which is really exciting. That day is our actual anniversary. So.
Yeah. And we'll be out. It'll be our first time away from our son for a whole night. So super excited. We're going to do a little getaway. And then
it's very quick, but we're excited for it nonetheless.
We are. Yeah. And then the weekend after that, we head down to LA. We're going to be seeing my sister. We're going to be doing Universal for one day and then Disneyland for a couple of days as well during that week of October, that first week of October. And we are so excited. She's never been to Universal. Yeah. And then we just obviously
can't wait to be
Disneyland's
back.
A jam. So we just cannot wait to go back. So
hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. Let us know if you're going to be in the park.
Yeah.
We'd love to say hi.
Definitely. There's already some people who are like, oh, I'm going to be there. And we cannot wait to meet you guys for the first time. So excited.
Can't wait.
2 days seems so short. I wish we could just live down there. But
I wish it could be longer.
Yeah, that's just how it is. Hopefully we'll go back again, not too far after this trip. But so no drink tonight. We still kind of made a little bit of something. Just because
drinking a little spritz I made. There's these like tropical lemonade like spritzes from Trader Joe's. Everything we have is always from Trader Joe's pretty much. So I just mixed that with vodka tonight. So it's just a little extra
refresher.
Kick.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I love it. We were going to be like, oh, hey, what kind of drink could we make that was, from back then? Then we're like, wait, they didn't actually.
There were none.
There were none. There was Holiday Land, which we talked about in our Club 33 video. I think that was just beer.
Probably, probably nothing too exciting.
But they did sell some stuff at Disneyland at this time, not drink-wise. Very, very surprising. We're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. But should we start with Main Street?
Yeah. Where better to start?
Yeah, I think maybe you should get the first one. But so anyways, we're talking extinct attractions and or rides.
Yeah.
On Main Street, there were no rides, obviously, but there were some crazy shops here that you might be surprised that they actually had.
I definitely was.
Yeah. And so this, I believe at this time, not all the shops were Disney owned shops. They actually like leased out spaces for companies to come in and rent and showcase their products on Main Street. The first one, do you want to get? Because I don't know.
Sure, it's a little uncomfortable for you. So there was a shop on Main Street that was called Hollywood Maxwell's Intimate Apparel Shop.
Yeah.
In case you can't get the idea of what that was, this shop was operated from 1955 to 56, and it may have not even been a full year.
Yeah.
I don't think it probably got a whole lot of attention. It was basically a shop for bras and corsets for the ladies. And there was a mechanical wizard of bras, quote unquote, that talked about the different types of bras. I think it was like at the start of the shop. Yeah, we looked
Like,
up a
got,
picture of
like-
it. It was kind of terrifying, actually.
It was scary. Yeah.
And yeah, the fact that
there.
existed in Disneyland is just such a trip to me.
Yeah.
I can't believe it was there.
It almost looked, the Wizard of Braz almost looked like a, take one of the dolls from Small World, make it really big, and turn it into like a genie.
Yeah.
And there's no real audio from this that you could find, but I think, yeah, he was just given a history. He
was talking
walk
about
into a
the-
Disney store and this genie's talking all about bras. You're like, where
What's
am I?
happening?
I thought this was a kid's park.
Yeah.
That's probably why it only lasted for not even a year.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, never knew about that one, but I'm definitely glad that it got replaced. That much I'll say.
Yeah, same here. So where this is at, if you're on Main Street in Disneyland, and yeah, we're talking strictly about Disneyland tonight. If you guys like this episode, maybe we'll do one California Adventure, maybe we'll do one Disney World. Let us know. We'd love to talk about these because there's so many extinct attractions out there.
Yeah.
But so
are.
when you're walking down Main Street, there's this area that has a little porch, and a lot of people love kind of sitting here. And you can just like hang out here on these chairs. It's on the right when you're walking towards the castle.
I always
So
want to
that
sit
used
there,
be-
and
yeah.
it's always taken.
And the door doesn't open, and you're like, why isn't there a shop here? And it was
It's where you
because
can buy
they're like,
bras.
shut it down for good. Actually, there was one thing that did take its place, I think, in the past, but now
Oh,
it's just a
really?
cool sitting place. Yeah.
No, you can just sit there
Yeah.
and imagine what was once there.
Yeah. Do you want to get the next one? Then maybe I'll get the other one. I feel like that kind of
Sure.
fits the groove.
Yeah. Okay. So the other spot that was on Main Street that is now gone was called Main Street Flower Market. It was there from 1955 to 77, which was actually a pretty long time.
Yeah. Seriously.
The fact that we never even knew about it until now, and it was there for like over 20 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So basically, it was an outdoor flower shop that had a huge display of plastic flowers like outside. It was kind of in that area, like towards the middle of Main Street. I think also on the right.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
I feel like I know this area because we looked at pictures of this as well. And it's kind of like, I think there's snack carts there now or something, but I think it looked like that same area. So basically, yeah, they were positioned as flowers that will never wilt because they were plastic.
They're magical flowers. No, it's just plastic.
Yeah. And there was tons and tons of different types of flowers that were all fake.
Yeah.
But just
Weird.
guess-
Like I don't.
like, did people buy them?
I mean, it operated for like over 20 years.
They
I'm
bought
sure
fake flowers. It's so interesting.
the world was a different place back then.
Yeah.
I
I
think
don't,
now, no, wait. We still buy fake plants.
okay, I
but
know,
they're not
but
plastic.
there were like bouquets of like just brightly
it looked
colored
it looked
flowers.
like janky, but
like
you know,
they looked fake.
in
But
20 years, people will probably look at our like fake succulents and fake plants and be like, "Why did people buy these?" So
Yeah, that's
it's all
true.
about the
That's
times,
true,
right?
yeah.
So
I guess it
maybe
made
that
sense
was
back
really
then.
big back then.
so yeah,
Look
very,
at photos of this though. It was like a legit
Yeah, it was a
marketplace with
big
flowers.
setup.
Huge operation they had going on there.
That's cool.
But the last one that we wanted to talk about, this was the thing that they used to sell back in the day before. I love how Walt was like, no alcohol in the parks, no alcohol in the parks, but we're going to have the Fine Tobacco Shop, everybody. The Fine Tobacco Shop. This is where you've seen the Native American statue that's on Main Street. This is actually where he is from. I don't actually have the dates written out here for some reason. I missed that one. But guests 16 and older, you could go in there. Crazy that it's 16. Go in there, buy some cigars and some pipes. And then you would get a complimentary Disneyland matchbook. Who wouldn't want a Disneyland matchbook? And then they're free to enjoy around the park. So just go in there before you hit a ride, just lie one up and enjoy riding. So that was like a huge,
It's a different time.
very different time. And that's the funny thing is we're like, how did they have that? And then no drinks and all that stuff. But there was really that big push in the 90s that like where
It
during
was
our
so
age, like we've
popular,
always
yeah.
grown up being like, smoking is the worst like thing in the world, but before
was
that
so
it was so
common.
common. Yeah. And so
And it's
that was-
interesting though, like we were talking about how Walt himself was a smoker, but
Mm-hmm.
he never wanted to like let anyone see him smoking because he just didn't want to like encourage a bad habit or
Yeah.
something. So it's interesting that he was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, they can do it in the park if they want. Like, but drinking wasn't allowed. It's just like, it's
and that
so
was the
weird
thing
to
too. Like almost
now.
every restaurant, even planes, you're able to smoke in. Like it was so commonplace back then.
Restaurants, any confined area that now we would be like, oh, maybe bring that outside. Like, it was totally fine back then.
So I thought that was a pretty funny one to bring up. But now we're going to jump into some actual
land.
Some land, some attractions. Some of these aren't attractions. They're just like really cool things that we would love to have experienced and see. But do you want to start us off? Because I know you're a big
I'll talk about this one. So we actually got to see another version of this in Paris. So it was the Skull Rock Cove. So it was in Fantasyland, and basically it was a replica of Captain Hook's ship that doubled as a restaurant. It was called Chicken of the Sea Pirate Ship, which is so funny. And Chicken of the Sea. Yeah, which I think is what they call
like tuna. Yeah, tuna. It was like they sold tuna. I don't know if it was tuna salads or like tuna soup. Is that a thing?
Just maybe a bunch of tuna.
Just a lot of tuna.
I guess you can do a lot with it.
Loves tuna.
I guess he likes tuna.
He's a huge fan.
But yeah, so you could walk over to the Skull Rock Cove and enjoy your meal with a waterfall going on, like kind of right above you, right? From the photos, it looked like it was like pretty much.
I think how it was in Disneyland Paris, we like actually got to go into the skull and see the backside of water.
And there was no restaurant.
There's no restaurant, and I don't even think there was a ship there. I'm trying to remember. There might have been, but
I don't recall
this, like you could actually. I saw some photos and people were sitting like behind the waterfall, and like not directly behind, but there's like little tables where you could get. So it's cool. It was like a restaurant where you go into Captain Hook's pirate ship, grab your food. You could either stay on the pirate ship and like steer the wheel or go to Skull Rock. Cool. But just the vibe of this was
I love that.
So cool.
Yeah, I totally would have loved to see that. I mean, it's cool that there is a Skull Rock in Paris, and it was really cool to see. That was probably one of my favorite things there. But there wasn't too much. Yeah, the dragon was my favorite. But yeah, I mean, aside from just kind of walking through it, there wasn't too much other than just looking at it.
It just provides, the aesthetic.
Kind of the ambiance of Skull Rock.
Which would have been cool because it was so close to Peter Pan's flight.
Yeah.
So it'd be
it was like perfect. I kind of love that it was there, but I guess, it got replaced by Dumbo, the flying elephant ride, which everybody loves now, and it is kind of a classic at this point.
Yeah.
And since there was already like a Peter Pan ride, I guess it just made sense to move out, the other Peter Pan attraction. But it was so cool. Like, I mean, that would have been a really cool thing to see.
Sure. I know. That was the thing when I was thinking about this. I was like, man, I'm so bummed that it closed down, and I would have kept it over Dumbo. But honestly, Dumbo is so many kids' favorite rides and first ride, very special.
Very special.
And so this was open in 61 and closed in 82. So a lot of the 90s babies, the millennials, didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
We missed it. I wonder if our parents ever saw it when they were kids.
I don't know. Probably.
Probably all the time.
I guess they would have, because it would have been there when they were kids.
Yeah. So awesome. I love it. So next up in Fantasyland, we are going to be talking about the motorboat cruise. So this was from 57 to 91, and then in 91 to 93, it was rethemed to the motorboat cruise to Gummy Glen. Amazing name, right? This was based on the Adventures of Gummy Bears show. I had no idea that this show was around until we were actually talking to your old boss one time, and he was like, "Dude, Adventures of Gummy Bear,
big fan of the Gummy Bears,
huge show, huge fan." It's like Disney Care Bear. I don't know. We should watch it. But
we should watch it. I mean, I think he showed me clips of it back in the day, and I kind of forgot what it was all about. But there was definitely Gummy Bears, and there was like old cartoons of them.
Weren't they? I think they were like real bears, but just colorful, right? They weren't like real like gummy bears.
I don't know. Maybe they were like themed after actual gummy bear candies, but they looked like real bears.
Yeah.
I'm not really
Either
sure.
way,
We'll have to do our research on that. But
all we're saying is that because of the retheme to the gummy bears, that's one of the reasons why it closed down. So probably a terrible show. No, just kidding. But this attraction, you were able to. So this actually lived. I think a little bit of it was part of where Finding Nemo's submarine is, but also it extended through to Fantasyland, like near the Matterhorn. And as I talk about what replaced it, you'll probably know where this was. But this ride was pretty much like Autopia on water. You were able to, pilot your own little motorboat, but it had an underwater track so that you wouldn't crash into other people. You actually had to follow that line, which is really cool.
Like Autopia.
Yeah, exactly. A water Autopia. This did close because of the retheming. It didn't really go over too well. And the retheming was just literally put plywood, characters of the gummy bears around, and they're like, new attraction. You want to see these bears? Right. So it didn't really go over too well. And then also the operating budget for this was actually used to create Toontown. But you could see part of the water still in this area. It was transitioned to like a smoking section for a while. So if you're ever like walking past Matterhorn, you're like, smells like a casino in here, and you look over and there's people like smoking at like near some water around Matterhorn. That was part of the loading dock for Gummy Glen's Boat Adventures or whatever.
Yeah.
And so this, I mean, it would have been cool to ride it, but I feel like it would have just been like Autopia, right? Like I'm excited to go on Autopia now with our son.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those things where it's like,
it would be cool. Because, like, a boat is a different feel than a car. So it would be cool to, like, do that same type of thing, but in a boat, like, on the water.
Yeah.
But I guess they probably had to choose, like, okay, which one are we going to keep, like, between these two? Yeah. And Autopia was probably more popular, so.
For sure. And actually, one thing we're not going to really talk about here, but I did see that there was an Autopia, a junior Autopia, and a couple other versions of Autopia that kind of sounded... Not really PC. And yeah, so this, I think there was an Autopia without the track, right? And then there was Junior Autopia that actually had a track for the younger ones so that they wouldn't, crash into things.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of, just a random side note here that there's a lot of different versions of Autopia over the years. But yeah, motorboat cruise, it would have been really cool to experience. And I guess they made nothing of that area anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we should have just kept something similar, updated it. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one that we're going to talk about is called Videopolis.
Oh, yeah.
This is another one that I heard quite a bit about from my old boss. He was a big fan of this growing up. He was like a teen at the time that this was a very popular place. It was like, it was the place to be. So it operated from 1985 to 1989. It was basically like a nightclub for teenagers.
In
honestly.
Disneyland.
Yeah, it was definitely more tame than like an adult nightclub would be. But it was.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad that it was.
It's like Pinocchio Pleasure Island out there.
Could have been worse. But yeah, so it was located where the Fantasyland Theater is now, which is cool. And a lot of teens were wanting to go to other theme parks because there were bigger thrill rides and things like that. So I think Disneyland was trying to kind of cater to them and be like, no, we have cool stuff here too. Yeah. You can have a nightclub for your age group. Yeah. so cool. So they were trying to cater to that group with this for sure. Basically, there were 70 TV monitors playing modern music videos or footage so that guests could watch themselves dance. That is hilarious.
Yeah. I feel like that's the coolest thing, right? Like whenever you're at a sporting event and they like film you and you're like, I'm on TV. So yeah, they would have like music videos, but some of the screens would show like the kids dancing. And then if, you like look up at the screen and you see that it's you, then you're like, it's time to bust it. Like, bust that move.
Yeah.
Gosh, that would be so fun.
Cool idea.
They could do like a millennial Videopolis for like the 30 somethings. Just
That would be fun. I would attend. I have to
Playing
say.
like early 2000s hip hop. I'm there.
I would be there for sure.
Oh yeah,
Definitely. So this was it was also a place where live music could be held. I don't know how often that happened or if it was mostly just DJ style, but it ended up getting closed due to gang related fights that were happening in the parking lot.
Yes, I think they started.
So it went downhill
there
quick.
Like, maybe there's like, some people getting upset there, and then they would like, you got kicked out, and then they would like
meet me in the parking lot.
Do their gang related fights in the.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So that took a turn for the worse, unfortunately.
Thankful that your boss never was.
Yeah, he never was a part of those, as far as I know. I was never told about it.
He's the reason Videopolis is gone.
I don't think so. But so very interesting fact that we found out, Chris found out in his research. Churros, the favorite snack of the parks, were actually started in Videopolis. So apparently they were trying to find a new snack that would like entice people to come in even more. And so they brought in churros, and it just like became a staple in the parks after that. I guess they went over really well, and then everybody loved them, and they spread throughout the rest of the park.
It's crazy. Yeah, I read that the person who was in charge of like food in Fantasyland area went to like an event that was at one of those beaches, like the SoCal beaches, and one stand was selling churros, and I think it's J&J Foods, which I think owns Tio Pepe, and so he had one of those, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is great!" And so I think they've ever since then have been using the same distributor for that. So that's how it all started.
Crazy.
I know. So insane.
I never knew that.
Who knew Videopolis brought about churros?
I know.
It's so
I
cool.
would have never known if we hadn't done this episode.
I know. I love it.
So good.
So in Fantasyland, we are going to transfer over to another land. And this one, giving you a heads up, has a lot. I mean, this land has changed so much in the years, but
I probably still will.
And probably still will. So from Fantasyland, you could take the Skyway from Fantasyland through the Matterhorn to Tomorrowland. And so we are first going to start with the Skyway that was in both of those lands. This lasted from 56 through 94. And we got Instagram follower and also just a friend of ours, Jordan the Swan, who we asked our followers, hey, what would you have liked to experience in Disneyland that is extinct now? And so Jordan the Swan was like, the Skyway. I totally feel you. I would love if they brought this back somehow. The fact that you were able to go through the Matterhorn was like the coolest thing ever. So
cool.
And so this was a lift, just like your aerial lift that would go from Fantasyland to Tomorrowland, and it would go through the Matterhorn. You could hear the Yeti, roaring. Is that the right way? Yeah, roaring out, yelling out, or whatever. His little battle cry as the backsleds went through. And so it did close due to some metal fatigue that was inside the Matterhorn. I forgot if it was like the actual Matterhorn itself or if it was the actual structure of the Skyway, but they had to do a lot of work in the Matterhorn, and because of that, they had to close this attraction down. But the cool thing is, with the latest refurb that the Matterhorn took, or like the latest big refurb that they did when they switched Harold out for the new Yeti, which I don't know if he has a name.
Does he even have a name?
Maybe it's still Harold. Maybe it's Harold's son.
No, they would have had to have given him a new name. Now I'm curious.
Yeah, I am curious about that. Well, let us know in the comments. Heralds and Guardians. That's true. But you could find the Skyway buckets just like ripped to shreds in the ride. So it's a little cool nod to an extinct attraction that was there. This is at the top, like one of the top of my list to ride through and see Disneyland from that cool vantage point. What a
cool view to get to see the park. I would so love to have been able to do that.
Oh yeah.
That would have been an amazing experience.
Seriously. Next up, we're going to be talking about one that was very cool at the time. I'm like not the... Like, this is one that I was fine that changed. So the Circarama, I don't know. Circus something. This later became the Circle Vision 360. I mean, same thing, but different names. This happened from 55 to 97. And this was a large circular room that had a 360-degree view of just different shows that they had over the years. So I think one of the first ones was America the Beautiful. I believe it was that one. But most of these videos, these different shows over the years showed like scenic views of America and like the Old West. And I think later on there was one that was like based in China. I forgot if it was called like Wonders of China or something along those lines, but just a way that you could kind of view a lot of different scenic spots around the world. And the cool thing about this was that it was very, very immersive. Walt was like, hey, how can we make videos, as immersive as possible? And one of the things, we didn't have 3D technology back then. We didn't have virtual reality. We didn't have any of that. So one thing that the Imagineers came up with was standing in the middle of a room and there's screens surrounding you and you get a look, and wherever you look, you're just catching a different view of what's going on. Really, really cool. Epcot has a couple of these in Canada, I think in China too. They have these kind of theaters, which is really awesome. And although this was like very immersive, like entertainment at the time, I feel like it didn't really fit the Tomorrowland vibe, right? Because it showed a lot of like Old West kind of things. So the tech was very Tomorrowland, but the shows weren't very Tomorrowland vibe.
Yeah.
So this building is actually now what houses Buzz Lightyear Astro Blaster. So I would say, it was really cool for its time. I'm fine with what it turned into because there are certain things that kind of fit that immersion and it's kind of like outdated now. So definitely fine with it. But speaking of like more, show type things, do you want to talk about the next
kind of
one?
a similar idea. So the next one we're talking about is called Rocket to the Moon, which was from 1955 to 66. And then it was later renamed Flight to the Moon and then Mission to Mars.
Yeah.
So it changed names quite a few times, and Mission to Mars was from 75 to 92.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like a long process of transitioning the ride, but I think it stayed kind of similar even after it changed names a bunch of times.
Yeah, so I think with the original change, it started before we even landed on the moon as America. And then once we eventually did, they're like, okay, we've already explored the moon, so let's change like the setting to Mars instead of the moon.
Yeah, because it was like a little bit less exciting to go to the moon.
It's like, dude, we've already been on the moon. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was basically like a circular theater with a screen above the audience and one below the audience, and it showcased where the audience was headed and where they were leaving. So kind of the inspiration for Mission Space and Epcot. It sounds like it was kind of a very similar idea.
Just more like Mission Space was like a lot more thrilling than this was. Like this didn't really have like shaking seats or anything.
It was, you said there's just kind of like a,
there was like a
takeoff
rumble because of like the sound. I think like the sound kind of made the seats rumble, but it wasn't like,
there's nothing like thrilling.
Yeah, like for the time, I think that was
really
it was
cool
probably
idea.
And
really
then
cool.
when you look down, you like saw a little Anaheim getting smaller and smaller. You're like,
that's kind of crazy.
That is, I mean, for the time in the 50s.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is a cool idea for sure. So the location of this is actually where Alien's Pizza Planet is now. So we all know where that is. It's still around now. So
we would take that as like a step down, like from an attraction to a restaurant.
I don't know. I mean, considering what it was,
well,
maybe not.
That'd be very boring to today's society because
but I don't know like how much space there is now to create another attraction that would be worth it there, because Space Mountain kind of takes precedence in that spot. We all know. And I feel like Pizza Planet isn't that huge of a space. So I don't really know what they would put there.
The thing is that like the restaurant isn't that big. I don't know how they fit a theater kind of thing in there.
I mean, I guess we don't really know like how far it goes back for like the kitchen and like whatever area there could be.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. And I was thinking when I was
you had an idea.
Coming up with this, I was like, okay, Alien Pizza Planet is like whatever.
Yeah.
When they were switching it to Alien Pizza Planet, I was like, they're switching it to Pizza Planet, and then they're like, no, we're changing the name, and that's it. Like, it should have. I mean, there's like, there's some green aliens. Like, cool, that's cool. But I think if they like either leaned more into the Pizza Planet thing and like actually had
like more
like made it look like
it.
Toy Story, like maybe a claw game where you could actually get the green aliens and like had it look like that kind of arcade vibey thing, that would be so cool because you're living your childhood. I always wanted to go to Pizza Planet.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool.
Pretty sick.
The other idea that I was thinking of was like, how awesome would this be? Obviously, we don't know what space allows. I don't know how big the Space 220 restaurant is, but if you could do something like that, like do a little overhaul, and then that way you're blending what is new, the restaurant, to what used to be this like whole adventure to space, and make like a Space 220 like West Coast. So, you know, cool. You go into your little pod, like the one in Epcot, and you get transported up to space, and then you have a little restaurant there and you eat there. I think that'd be really cool if they did that because it is kind of acknowledging the past with the present. But obviously, like I said, I don't know if it's feasible because I don't know how much space that takes up. But
and a lot
if
of
they could
money
do that,
probably
and a lot of
to
money
create that.
Screw it.
I know, but we all know how things are going these days with cuts and all that. So I doubt they would. I doubt they would do it, but still. If I had it my way, I think that would be a cool addition there. If there was the space for it, I think it would be a good re-theme.
Yeah, definitely. Next, we are going to be talking about the Monsanto House of the Future. This was from 57 to 67. This was a walkthrough tour of a plastic house with plastic furniture. It sounds so comfy. This was to showcase what the houses of the future could probably be like. And so I remember something like this when I was younger in Interventions. They had a downstairs area, I think it was downstairs, that kind of showcased like a future high-tech house. But the Monsanto House of the Future, it had a lot of high-tech, quote-unquote, appliances for back in the day, like a microwave. Super cool. A push-button telephone instead of a dial that had a speaker. Super exciting. I'm saying all this to just say, time moves really quickly, and a lot of things that are going to be in there, wouldn't keep up with the times. But there were some cool things. There were some like buttons to press that would like raise or lower appliances and shelves and all that stuff, which is really, really cool because we don't really have that as often in today's world. The other thing too is, I remember they said, there was like a unit on the wall where you could do like AC or heater, which is like, okay, we all have that now. But you could like push scents to certain rooms, which is really cool. So like if you wanted to like, hey, let's make the living room smell like a beach or whatever, you could press a button and it would like smell like a beach or like create sounds and stuff like that. Almost like an Alexa, but Alexa can't do the scents yet, unfortunately. Yeah, she has to get on that.
Coming.
Yeah. And so although it was really cool at the time, I'm glad we don't have something like this today because it would be outdated so fast, with the rate that technology is moving. So I'm glad we don't have this. Was really cool. One weird thing, the funny thing is, as I watched the promo video for this, and they just talk about plastic all the time. They're like, this plastic house is so amazing. Plastic windows and like plastic, like everything.
Like, I don't think I would want to live in a home made of plastic.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, though, apparently it's really durable because they took a wrecking ball to that thing and it like did not really budge. I mean, they had to take a new, like a claw thing to just like take it out. Like, and some parts even apparently are still around today, near Pixie Hollow, I believe. And it just, they could never get rid of it. So they just painted it the go away green. And so it just kind of blends in with everything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No way.
Yeah. Just like little like nubs of the structure. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I know.
Plastic homes should have been added to the Three Little Pigs story.
Oh my gosh. Right.
There was like straw and sticks and bricks. There should have been plastic because they're unbreakable, apparently.
Dude,
Those
yeah.
homes.
Ooh, I like that.
That just came to me. Moving on through Tomorrowland, we're going to talk about Adventures to Inner Space, which was there from 1967 through 95. So quite a long time. Some Instagram followers, Main Street and Beyond and Make It Magical Pod. Some good friends of ours both said that they would love to have experienced this one. So
I'm with them there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Same here. This one sounded so cool. So it was the first Omnimover system. So like what we ride in Haunted Mansion, that same type of ride system. This was the first ride like that back in the day, back in the 60s.
Crazy.
So it was a dark ride that shrunk you down to the size of a molecule. And it was narrated by Paul Frees, which was the ghost host in the Haunted Mansion. So very similar idea.
Omnimover, Paul Frees.
Yeah, they just kind of like switched themes with Haunted Mansion later on. But we've heard great things about this ride. It's definitely one that we would have loved to experience, but we think it would be so cool to have kind of an updated version of it in Epcot because it would kind of fit the future worlds idea in Epcot. It would be really, really cool to see that. We keep going back to my old boss in this episode. He has a lot of cool Disney stuff and a lot of knowledge about Disney stuff. So he actually owns a small version of one of the ride, like the Omnimover, a tiny Omnimover, basically, that was like what you get turned into as you go through the ride system.
You like enter the ride system, right? And then as it turns a corner, there's like this little machine that was just like pumping out these small little miniature
They're like
versions
this
of
big.
it. So it looked like as people went around the corner, they were turning into smaller ones. And so he owns one of those.
He has one of those. Crazy. Yeah, he actually has quite a few old things. And he has an Instagram for a lot of those props. If you are interested in seeing them, you can message us and we'll send you the page to check out.
You're trying to get him on our show, so hopefully we'll get him on the show soon.
Yeah.
Because I love talking old Disney props and everything. So
he's got some really cool
awesome
stuff, and you guys would love to see it, I'm sure. So maybe we'll have him on at some point.
Now, I think this is a hard one for me because Star Tours is so iconic as well. Now, I would love if this was like, they wouldn't do this because it would just be too much, money. If they had like did it in the Innovations building, I don't know if they have enough space, but like if they kept this ride but still had Star Tours, that would be cool. Or if they, like you said, moved it to Epcot, would be awesome. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking, if it never got turned into Star Tours, would Disney have ever bought out Lucasfilm? Would we have ever had more, would we have had The Mandalorian? Would we have had the Star Wars land? I don't know. Yeah. Because Star Tours was such a hit at the time. And I forgot when Indiana Jones came out, but they did the Indiana Jones ride. I think that was in the 80s as well. Mm-hmm. But Star Wars would have probably been a lot different today. We probably wouldn't have gotten more content. Interesting thing to think if we never got Star Tours. So I guess I'm glad Star Tours happened. I'm glad we got a Star Wars land and all this stuff. But very interesting thought. But as we move on, we had one that we actually added a little bit last minute here because we had an Instagram follower, Bay Lake Bay. She said 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And so great Disney page. Go follow her if you're on Instagram right now. Mm-hmm. But so at Disneyland, there was a walkthrough exhibit of sets and props from the 1954 movie. But I think she's actually referring to the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea submarine voyage that used to be at Magic Kingdom. Yeah. This was a, kind of taking off that submarine voyage that we had here in Disneyland, but it was themed towards 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So there were some changes there that looked really, really awesome, and I would have loved to experience that. And this lasted from 71 to 94. It got replaced by a couple different things, Ariel's Grotto for a little bit, and then now it stands, what stands in that place is the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in 2014. So crazy they don't have a submarine voyage there anymore, but Seven Dwarfs Mine Train has proven to be a hit.
For sure.
It would have been cool if they still kind of could have a section like that because, just any water feature I love in the Disney park.
Me
so
too. so aesthetically pleasing too, even if you don't like ride it all the time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I never ride Finding Nemo.
But I love the look
even though
of
I
it.
love, yeah. Like, I mean, it's fun to do sometimes, but it is very claustrophobic. But I love the fact that it's there because I just love to see that water setting. It's beautiful.
Yeah, seriously.
And even cooler now, right? Because didn't they add like...
They like brightened everything up. Yeah, it's like new.
And what's his name from Finding Dory? Hank.
Hank. Yeah, on the top parts of everything. Yeah, on the rocks.
There's some fun new additions, which I just love that area. But anyways, so there are some other things that are still around today, such as the People Mover, which is still in Disney World. We had it in Disneyland, and the track is still there, actually.
Yeah.
Just kind of sitting there vacant and has since then. Yeah, it's very sad because I'm like, well, you could either like do something with that track or just take it out, but it just sits there to be like, we used to have it, and it's just sad. But it was there from 1967 to 95, so just under 30 years. Really amazing ride. I loved riding it in Disney World. It was so like nostalgic to even just get to ride it there, even though it wasn't like the original setting for it. It was just so fun. I love that ride. And on Instagram, Darling of Disney, another one of our good friends, said she would love to have been on this in Disneyland as well. So,
because I don't know if it was, obviously it had to be different. Like the layout had to be different, right? So I'm so curious how they differed. Because I love the Magic Kingdom one, but so curious how the Disneyland.
I know, I'm so curious too, because I mean, we can see like parts of where it went, but not all of it.
Yeah.
And like in Disney World, it goes all like through Space Mountain, and it's crazy. I mean, I don't know where else it went, but it would be cool to know those details. But yeah, so it sat there idle for 2 years until Rocket Rods took over. Which only lasted.
I got to go on it. You didn't get to go on it.
Yeah,
I went on it
not
once.
there at that time, but he actually got to ride that one before it was gone, which is so cool.
Yeah, I do actually kind of remember.
Like,
I was pretty young. Yeah, so I was. I don't want to do the math, but I think I was like.
We'll say like 5. We'll average it out to 5,
6, 7. Yeah, something like that. Rocket Rods was really cool. No, it wasn't cool. It was it was fun as a kid because it took that like technology of like almost California Screaming or any like launch sequence, and so just like go on the People Mover track and then like make a turn and then go really fast and then it would slow down for the next turn and then go really fast and then and so it was nice, but there was nothing really like exciting about it other than the speed. But I believe that was a lot of the issue with why they can't have anything on that track anymore, because it was built for the People Mover, which was a slow attraction. Mm-hmm. And then when you put something that kind of like puts stress on that
metal,
the structure, it's just not. They're afraid, I think, to put stuff on it right now because it was damaged during that process, which is a real bummer. But
I mean, at this point, they could have
just like take it down and put it back up. Yeah,
you could easily repair that damage and put something else there.
Yeah, I would love to have a People Mover back in Disneyland.
I know, cool. Or something. I mean, I would love People Mover, but like something should go there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's crazy. Another thing that was there, but then like literally moved to Disney World was the Carousel of Progress. This was there from 67 to 73. So glad that we were able to experience it in Walt Disney World when we went. Amazing song from the Sherman Brothers that just makes us feel so
one of my
Disney.
favorites.
Oh my gosh, I know, so awesome.
So cool getting to see it. That was one that I was like, because I had loved that song for so long.
Yeah.
So getting to see it for real was so amazing.
It was so perfect. And then America Sings took over there, and I guess I could quickly talk about America Sings. So America Sings was there from 74 to 88. This had audio animatronic animals singing like different American tunes throughout the different eras. Most of these animals were repurposed on Splash Mountain, like those big fluffy birds and everything, and the other animals, like I think the frogs and all this stuff were all from there. So they're still being used to this day. And then also I just found out that 2 geese were they were skinned to be droids on Star Tours, which is pretty interesting. So you get to see what like an animatronic looks like without all the fluff.
Yeah.
But
So interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Carousel of Progress, it would be cool if it was still in Disneyland for sure. Like maybe an updated version. America Sings. I kind of think of that as similar as Country Bear Jamboree. Like you see it once and you're like, oh, that's cool, but like I'm not going to see.
Yeah.
Like
It's not something that would probably be like something we had to see every time. It would be like one time.
Yeah. Exactly.
I agree. I think so too.
So after Tomorrowland, that concludes Tomorrowland. We have New Orleans Square, which there isn't anything
because
that
the
was
ones
changed.
there are just
they're too good that you can't.
Nothing
change
needs
them.
to change there.
Oh yeah, and then Critter Country, we had Country Bear Jamboree that did get turned into Pooh's Adventure, the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Oh my gosh!
Wow,
okay.
It's getting late here, isn't it?
It is getting late here, but that got turned into that. You can still see 3 animals still on the ride, which is cool. But Country Bear Jamboree did get switched over to Disney World, so you can still see it there. So
and the
not
characters
really,
are always outside. All the bears are always hanging out.
Bears.
I think we saw some of them over there.
They
so
look
funny.
very frightening.
Yeah, just as frightening as I'd imagined.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously.
But also Adventureland. There's not a whole lot that has changed over the years. You know, a lot of the things there are definitely staples. Aside from like Aladdin's Oasis turning into Tropical Hideaway. Of course, we know that's there now. But aside from that, not a whole lot except for the treehouse, which back in the day was the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. But for as long as I feel like we've known it, it has been Tarzan's treehouse. But now that's gone. And we are not sure what's coming next.
Gone-ish. The other week they took down the scrims, and so you could see inside the treehouse for a couple of days. I think they put it back up, but people were trying to get photos of it, and it didn't look that much different. I don't know.
I can't believe that.
Be Encanto, but
yeah, I still kind of think it will be too. But the fact that
yeah, I know, isn't that stupid for a year?
I just don't understand why it needs to be closed. If they're not even going to announce what it's going to be, it means they probably haven't like started on anything yet. It's like they just closed it to figure out what they want to do.
I know, it's ridiculous.
And they haven't yet or something. I have no idea.
It's so ridiculous.
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
But we'll see. That is yet to be seen. So moving on, we're going to talk about Frontierland, which is the last land in this discussion. We've talked about everything else.
Yeah.
So
do you wanna,
this one's
horses, so. Not that
these aren't horses, but this was interesting, and it was something I did not know about.
Yeah.
So there used to be pack mules that you could ride, basically. I guess around the land.
Well, so Frontierland was very different back in the day. How we know it today, it was very, we had the big Thunder Mountain like that takes up so much space. Frontierland back in the day was very open and very very just kind of like, dusty and like you would expect in a real frontier. So yeah, the pack mules they had like a little trail, like you had to follow a trail.
Okay.
With like a cast member at the front. But
interesting. Yeah, so it changed names to Rainbow Ridge Pack Mules and then Pack Mules Through Nature's Wonderland. So another one that changed names quite a few times. Which is funny because it was just a ride on mules.
Yeah.
But it was available to do from 1955 through 1973. So the attraction basically kept adding like new experiences each time that it got a new name change. So initially it was just kind of like riding on the trail on the pack mules. And then there was animatronics that were added of like just animals, I think, that would have been like out on the trail somewhere.
Bears. That was the one that really stuck out to me.
Maybe like deer or something.
Yeah, I think there's like caribou, like
that's funny.
heads. Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting. Kind of cool that you could ride like real animals in the park. I definitely never knew that was a thing before. But there was like really cool rock formations and like a little town, maybe kind of like what we see at the end of Thunder Mountain, kind of a similar vibe. No other park had developed a pack mule style ride attraction. So that was kind of a cool like first time thing that happened at Disneyland. But at some point, I think it just kind of became less popular because people were getting more into thrill rides and just weren't really as interested in riding around on mules. And the mules were just not cooperating as well after a while. Like apparently they would just kind of like stop on the trail and not want to move. So I think it probably took up a lot of time trying to just like get things going again. Yeah. So eventually that just kind of died out. And Frontierland has just changed a lot ever since then. So
yeah, and another one that was very similar, we had the Rainbow Caverns Mine Train, which then changed names to the Mine Train through Nature's Wonderland. This was from 56 through 77. And so this was a year after the pack mules started and then a couple years after it closed because it kind of, I think, shared similar views that it did with the pack mules. But this was a leisurely train ride that brought you through the frontier to see there was a cascading waterfall, animatronic animals, a lot of which I think were, used for the pack mule, Pack Mule Adventure, all the different name changes. Some rock formations that looked like they were going to fall on you. There's like some spinning rocks on top of like rock formations, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like a little geyser section, and then a couple more things. But yeah, with the rise of thrill rides, like you said, Thunder Mountain took over this area in 79. So I think 2 years after it closed. And yeah, these things I would have loved to explore the Rainbow Caverns Mine Train. But the thing is, yeah, like that's one would be so cool. And even the pack mules, like to do an attraction that was on real life animals would be really cool. I think now that we have the railroad where you get to see like really cool experiences along that track. I'm glad Big Thunder took over because Big Thunder is just such an amazing ride. Oh yeah. So like a thrilling version, and we still have a leisurely railroad type attraction. So the transition
was good. Like it was very cool for back then, but I think like what took its place definitely like belongs.
Yeah.
And is better.
Is such a classic roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I can't really imagine Disneyland without it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely not. Frontierland would not be the same at all without Thunder Mountain.
Oh, for sure. Oh, that's such an amazing ride. Yeah. So glad. So would have loved to experience it, but fine with what it turned into. But as we close out, we were just thinking like what rides, and we're not going to break this down, but what rides will our kids never get to experience? Like Splash Mountain for one. I mean, that's the one the immediate one that comes to mind. Like we'll be talking about Splash Mountain, and they were like, we've never went on it. But there's going to be, I think, a lot of reskins in the future. But what ride is legit going to be torn down and
like a new ride, like full on new ride?
One that really that I just thought about was the Great Movie Ride. Now that's torn down, and now it's Mickey's Runaway Railway. So things like that, and there hasn't been a lot in Disneyland recently, but it's just interesting to think about. Like, what rides will we have experienced and had a connection with that our kids will never have that connection with?
Yeah, like how many things are going to close down in the next like decade?
Yeah,
and become something completely different.
And like really will it be better? Will it be worse? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting.
I want to be positive. I want to think that things will always get better. It could go that way or it could not. Kind of depends on who's in control of things.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really don't know. I hope they do good things though, because we have so many classic attractions. I wouldn't want any of the other classics getting taken out. Like it just would break my heart if like more and more of them got changed out when like they're staples.
Yeah, see that? I think that's the interesting thing, right? Like Bugs Land changing Flix Flyers to Inside Out or something like that. Like that's one thing, but when it comes to certain classic attractions, another one that we had, well, I guess that was a reskin, but we had Tower of Terror to Guardians. We had California Screaming and Credit Coaster. We had a couple reskins. Not any major like full ride renovations, but it's scary to think about.
Adventure.
That's California Adventure, yeah.
And like there were favorites there for sure, but Disneyland itself has been there since 55, and like so many of those have been there for so long. So like I just hate the thought of some of those getting switched out.
Maybe we'll have to do another episode because like Autopia, love Autopia, but if it meant bringing Tron Coaster in, I don't know. Like, there are certain things that we might be a little more okay with, and it would boost the park. So, anyways, there's a lot of things to think about. Let us know if you want to talk about this stuff. We always love talking to listeners and just friends and everything. Another thing I had jotted down here, which would be interesting, is Disney has already talked about like trying to join the metaverse and doing a lot of things in the metaverse, which I feel like that was a big thing like a couple years ago. And then now I'm like, no one wears VR. Like, I don't know. But I think it'd be really cool. Yeah. I think it'd be kind of cool to do like if Disney wanted to expand in the virtual reality space to build out virtual rides that are extinct so that people could still experience them, quote unquote, in a way, almost like a POV, but like in a metaverse virtual reality thing, because you can watch like videos, but a lot of times things are happening over the left and the camera's only going to show the right, So if you got a little headset and you could kind of look wherever and kind of experience these rides, I think that'd be, I hate VR stuff except for like the void that was there with the Star Wars thing. It was so cool in Downtown Disney, but I don't really like where we're going with all that stuff, but I think it'd be really cool. That'd be one thing I'd be like, okay, I'll get a headset to experience some extinct rides. I think that'd be
cool.
Pretty awesome.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe.
But with that concludes our episode. Like we said, we are going to be going to the parks in a few weeks. So next episode, we're going to be talking about just kind of like some things, whether that's activities or new Halloween snacks or drinks, or just
kind of our planning process, like what our expectations are for this trip. Just kind of what we're hoping to do in those 2 days. So that's going to be our next episode next week.
Yeah. And so we're just so thankful for all of you guys who are listening. It really means so much. Like I say every single week, but really, honestly, it does baffle us. And we're just so thankful for all your support. But with that, we will see you guys next week and have an awesome weekend, and we'll catch you then.
Bye, guys.
See ya.